Hi, welcome back to my channel. I'm Traben, and in today's video, we'll be creating a character for August's Magical Readathon. For those who don't know, the Magical Readathon is a readathon in August that's hosted by G over at Book Roast. I will link the channel as well as a few key videos to the idea behind this readathon because it is probably the most involved readathon that I am aware of. Originally, it started off several years ago as a Harry Potter readathon where you would get sorted into your house and it was all based on Harry Potter lore. But about maybe 2 years back or 3 years back, G changed it to being a completely original world, a completely original concept because of the controversy surrounding J.K. Rowling. So now it takes place primarily at Aurelian Academy. So what I'm hoping to get through today is at least get my character up to the point where I have an idea of what my TBR is going to look like. So there are several documents here that I have open on my iPad, and we'll be looking through these momentarily. But what we need to start with is just catching you up with what I've done so far. So I've already looked through a history of the world. So in order to make my character. Now, this is very similar to a D&D style setting, a D&D style campaign. So I took a concept that I had been baking for a D&D setting and adapted it to this world. So uh, Aldia is the overall world, and then it gives you some background here on what the world is like, how magic grew as this meteor crashed into the planet, and then we have the different continents. So my character is from Dark Meadow. Dark Meadow is kind of like the Underdark. If you are familiar with D&D lore, it's where there's demons and most people live underground, and it's very dark and mysterious and wild and dangerous. And it's said that the inhabitants of Dark Meadow are primarily the Iltarians. I decided my character would be Iltarian, which mostly means that he kind of looks demonic and they are interested in learning the long lost dark forces. Um, they have the ability to shapeshift and they tend to turn into a crow form. So that was all very appealing for the character that I was making. So, in very broad strokes, my character is someone who was raised in a very far off, isolated village that was um, trying to get that dark lore by making a pact with a demon. So the demon would give them access to this old magic and these old tomes in exchange for every generation someone had to two youths had to be sacrificed to this demon. And my character witnessed what the ceremony is for the previous two that went through the ceremony, and then was selected to be the next one when he became of age. At that point, he had fallen in love with the other person who was going to be involved in this ritual, and they planned to run off together in secret. So part of the ritual involves someone being the girl being impaled with a knife and having their soul removed from their body. And so, as they are fleeing from their village, the person that he's in love with is stabbed, and he sees their soul rend from their body and absorbed into this dagger. And so he has to flee to save his own life. And little does he know that the demon that was orchestrating all this has now inhabited the body of the woman he loved and is pursuing him. He knows he's being pursued. He doesn't know that a demon wearing the appearance of his love is pursuing him, is after him. So he decides to head to Aurelian Academy, not so much for the education there, although he is trying to find a way to bring his love back. That's his primary motivation for anything we look at as far as classes go. But also just because he knows that the novice path, the way to get to Aurelian Academy, is very perilous. It's fraught with danger. And so he figures he can hide by going through this path and getting to this school. So again, that's the gist of my character. I'm calling my character Traben. I don't have a last name for them yet, and that will kind of inform some of our choices moving forward. So I believe the next step we need to do is the novice path. Now, when this was first introduced a few years back, there were all sorts of prompts along with the novice path, and there was a lot of like detail. But now you can kind of do a quick version, and that's what we're going to do here. I've got a little notebook here to get information on, just to keep track of things. And so we're going to find um, our group, right? So that's what the purpose of the novice path is, to um, determine which of the orders we're going to be in. So it's basically like the sorting hat at Hogwarts. So let's go through this and we'll see where we end up. Again, I'll make some notes and we will figure out where I'm getting sorted, and then we can move on to the major part, which is deciding which class we're going to pursue. And that's going to determine what our book prompts are for next month. So, okay, it says ash. So number one says Ashthorn tree is a beautiful sight, yet it is forbidden to study without a permit. Mysterious whispers emanate from within. Its trunk was covered in various unknown runes and symbols. So much knowledge to be gained. What do you do? Okay, so A says, I have the utmost respect not only for guidance put in place, but for nature itself. I took the sight in and moved on. Probably not, no. B, I know not to mess with any writing I cannot decipher, so I don't approach it, but I also do not leave without quickly copying a few symbols on a piece of parchment as I pass by to look up later. C says, the writing is not what intrigued me, the whispers did. What stories do they hold? You came back after dark to meditate nearby and align yourself with the tree. And D says, you believe that the energy of these ancients is inherently intertwined with our own and is meant to be shared. You came back after dark and touched the tree to siphon energy, power, and magic, both to honor it and prepare for the journey ahead. So I think for my character, I think for Traben, I'm going to go with C, because I think the whispers and kind of like that dark energy is what is appealing to him. And it's got the bit about meditating. Not sure that's really what he's into, but I think the whispers really speak to me on that level of this character who's coming from like a very dark place. So for number one, I'm going to do C. Number two says the mists of solitude showed you your deepest, darkest fear and made you live it. What a terrible experience. How did you resist the hallucinogenic effect of the mist droplets? So A is, I transmuted parts of the nearby mist into solid marbles that fell to the ground. This gave me enough time to push through without being too affected. B says, I took time to analyze and accept my fears until they did not have enough of a mental impact on my journey forth. C says, I conjured a dust devil to help disperse the mist, which allowed me to pass. D said, I tried to calm my breathing Minimized feedback by closing my eyes and focused my hands and feet. I established a connection with the earth and let it guide me toward the exit. So I'm bouncing between B and C on this one. I think I'm going to go with B for number 2. So B is I just accept. I just I I make it. I accept the fears over and over again until they don't affect me anymore. Um, C, when unexpectedly faced with a hooded, oddly acting shadowed figure at the lower part of the ruins of Sky, what was your first instinct? A, I attempted to subtly slip near their conscious mind to check upon their state and intentions. B, I thought they could have been injured in need of help. I quickly scanned for any injuries in need of treatment. C, who cares about the figure? Have you seen the beautiful way nature and magic become one here? I was more intrigued by the stunning astronomy murals. D, I activated a protection glyph to shield both myself and my group. They could be dangerous. I'm leaning towards D. The fact that he knows he's being pursued, if he sees a shadowy figure, I think the first instinct is going to be like some sort of protection to like get out of the way. So for number 3, I'm going to go with D. Protection glyph, also probably something that he'd be looking toward, right? Ways to ward off people, ways to avoid people in the future. So, question number 4. One by one, you have all fallen ill of near the Obsidian Falls. You recognize symptoms of poisoning, but had only a couple of minutes to come up with a plan to keep yourself conscious. What do you do? Okay. I found an herbal remedy nearby. There's always one if you know what to look for. Found the first aid kit and constructed a magical apparatus to test your blood composition or to locate and get rid of the poison. I gathered myself, focused, and folded time itself, jumping to the time just before the poisoning took place. Gritted my teeth and channeled restorative magic to slowly put the poison out. It takes a while, but it's thorough work. Pain is to be mortal after all, and they like to remind us of it. Kind of like that last one. The folding time was really cool, but I like this idea of like, pain. Being mortal is feeling pain. I feel like my character is the kind of dark, brooding character that would say something like that. All right. Question number 5. You were offered a gift of the Tower of Rumination, a rare and valuable scroll that holds information on a subject. There were 4 choices, but you can only pick one. Which do you take? Scroll of Lore, Scroll of Shapeshifting, Scroll of Inspiration, or Scroll of Illusions? I mean, I'm already innately shapeshifting, right? So, man, I'm leaning toward Lore or Illusions. He's trying to find information that will help him to either escape or to figure out how to um, reverse this thing that happened to his love. So I think if given the choice of these 4, I think he's going to go with the Scroll of Lore, just on the off chance that it has something to do with the events going on in his own life. All right. So now you give shapes to your answers, tally them up, and you get your final result. Okay, so I got triangle. Question number 2. Got triangle. Question number 3. Diamond. Question number 4. Square. Question number 5. Square. All right, so I believe it said if you have 2 that tie, you can decide which one you're going to do. All right. All right. A messenger crow lands on your shoulder with a scroll in its mouth. It's an invitation to a guild. And observing you throughout the journey and think you'd be a brilliant addition to their ranks. So check what shape you have. So I can either go with square or triangle. So it's either mindwalkers or archivists. I think I'm going to join the archivists in an effort to try to find information. use those connections in the archives to find information about a way to reverse the spell or the situation that I find my love in. Okay, so that gave us our guild. That's going to be important for guild rankings, which is something you can do. It's also going to be important later on because it can give us a spell focus, which is one of the extra things you can do at the end. Not sure if I'm going to do that on stream, but I'm giving an idea of like what it's like to go through this whole process. So the next step then is going to be to look at the classes that you can take. Like, what are you going to study? This is the autumn semester, so you can look at any of these classes, and it gives you a list of classes you need to take to like earn this distinction. So we're going to go through twice. First, just for things that I'm interested in, like what sounds cool to me, and then a second time we'll go through and think about what does my character want to do. Okay, because there's a whole bunch of jobs in here. So I'll try to be quick. I haven't read through all these bits, but I will look just like a general overview and then decide if it's going to go on the list, and we'll narrow it down to a single one. Okay, so the first one is spell swords. This seems to be like imbuing magic with swords. Um, Not really what I'm interested in. Okay, archmage. So just becoming really good with magic and studying. Uh, Hungry for knowledge, diplomatic leader, curious, independent, quick, strong, adventurous, brave. I don't think archmage is quite what I'm looking for. Moon warden, dedicated, truthful, kind, curious, and dreamy. I don't really think those describe my character, but this sounds very interesting. What does a moon warden do? So it's studying the moon. You manipulate gravity and density. That's all very cool, but um, yeah. Illusionist rogue. This is probably the first one that's going to go on my list. That sounds pretty cool. I like the idea of being an illusionist rogue. The traits: charismatic, clever, playful, insightful, and sly. Only has 3 things you need to do on the list here. So yeah, if you look in the lower right corner, you have the spring equinox classes, and then you have the autumn equinox. And the autumn equinox is a little bit more involved because it has different levels. And if you want to get to the higher levels, you have to do more prompts. You have to do more reading. So, herbologist, no. Master of elements, attentive, confident, nature loving, and spontaneous. Don't think that's going to work. Healer, no. Story weaver, selfless, compassionate, accurate, and stable. Not much is known about them because the nature of their work, it's very mysterious. Um, Heavily like regulated. Many of them are fiction writers. That would be one that I would be interested in being a story weaver, but I think it's going to get dropped off when we think about what my character wants to do. A mage hunter sounds promising. So, is a mage hunter someone who hunts mages, or is it a hunter that is also a mage? Investigation of crimes and the tracking of wanted criminals. Okay, so it sounds like it's magic police. Do I want to be the magic police? I feel like I feel like my background is not leaning toward magic police. Necromancer, probably a little bit too dark. I would certainly hope that my character has kind of learned their lesson for dabbling in dark arts. A crafts mage, imaginative, creative, sociable, inventive, and detail oriented. This is all about like crafting. This is like your artificer, I think. Beastmaster. Beastmaster would be cool. Like I would like Beastmaster. But again, I don't think that this lines up with my character quite so much. Abjurer, protective, quick focused, and resilient. Defensive magic. So this is something that my character would probably be very interested in because they are, again, they've got two things that they want to focus on. They want to protect themselves from the people coming after them, and they want to figure out a way to help their love. So um, I think this would fit the bill for one, and the guild is fitting the bill for figuring out an idea of what is going on. So Abjurer might be a good one. Godseer. Again, these have such cool names, but what does it mean? Devoted, loyal, and trustworthy. Okay, so it's about what god you follow. You get boons based on the god. Okay, so this is like your paladin character, right? Getting your powers from the gods. Mind mender, tenacious, persevering, attentive, meticulous. Okay, so helping mages recover from psychological effects. I think that's really cool. Um, don't know if it is what my character wants to do. Alchemist, sly, imaginative, inventive, persistent, and competitive. Okay. The only thing that interests the alchemist is what others deem impossible. Infusing metal constructs with sentient life, turning stone into gold, immortality. Okay. I mean, if he goes down that route, he can maybe find out some things, right? These seem like the wild people. Going and doing these weird experiments could be a way of him figuring out how to solve this problem. So, independent research, right? So, ultimately decide like he'd be free to go off on his own and figure out what he wants to do. So this is looking like the best between what I would like and what my character would like. Scribe, no. Math magician. I'm not a fan of math. Feywild cartographer. Going into the Feywild and charting course. I I like that idea, but I don't think it's going to work out. I'm writing it down because I think it's an interesting idea. Might have someone in a later campaign have something similar to that. Dreamwalkers can project themselves into other people's dreams. That's cool. Again, I think a lot of these are neat, but we'll see. All right, we're almost done. Okay, demonologist studies the forces of chaos and evil so that when they strike, you're prepared. Okay. Evermonitor reports strange occurrences, documenting and profiling various supernatural threats. I mean, I think we might have found it. A Rift Architect opens portals. Star Whisperer, listening to the stars. Wild Form Druid. Some of these are so cool, but they're not lining up with the character I've created. And that was like part of the purpose in creating the character is to give you some focus so you can figure out what you want to do. Okay, so I think I'm going to end up with Demonologist because that seems like the most direct route to finding out what my character wants to discover, and also because it's cool. So it ticks both of those boxes. All right. So again, if you look at the lower right corner, you can see what we need to get for um, this particular job. in the autumn equinox, which is the August readathon. So I have to get an O in elemental studies. I have to get a Q in spells and incantations, O in conjuration, and then a D in demonology. Oh, it makes sense, right? And I'm picking this blind just based off my character. And now we need to go and look what are the actual prompts for these. And the thing about the autumn equinox as opposed to the spring is that in addition to just taking a class, there are different ranks you have to obtain in certain classes. So there's O, Q, and D, which is, I think, up here, right here. So O is ordinary, Q is qualified, D is distinguished. In order to get qualified, you have to do the ordinary. To get distinguished, you have to do ordinary and qualified. So, all right, I've got two that are ordinary, one that's qualified, one that's distinguished. Okay, let's look at what is an O in elemental studies look like. Elemental studies, and O is a book with the word earth in the title. That might be a little bit difficult. I'm not sure I've got anything in my TBR that's going to fall in that list, but we will have to find something. That's part of the fun of the readathon. Okay. So I also need an O in conjuration. That is ghostly etiquette. Read a court/royal book. Okay. I read The Goblin Emperor earlier this year, I think, or last year, and it was really interesting. I feel like the author was much more focused on like the court etiquette and coming up with all the rituals and things, but it was still a really good story. So I'm sure I can find something that would fit that bill. Again, I don't have anything offhand, so these are going to be things that I'm going to have to look for later. I have to get a Q in spells and incantations. So that's going to be two different things that I'm going to need. So spells and incantations here. Read a manga, comic, or graphic novel. Easy. Not a problem. I have plenty of those. And then, but I have to get a Q. So I have to do the next one up too. So that was Charm, Short Trip, and then I also have to do Incantation, Black Flame. A black cover or fire on the cover. That doesn't seem like it's going to be too difficult. And then the last one, so for the demonology, I have to get a D. I have to get distinguished. I have to do all three of the prompts in demonology. This is going to be 3 more books that I'm looking for. All right, that's going to be 7 books total. That's probably going to be most of my TBR for next month. So let's see. Demonology. Introduction to Low-Level Demons. Read a first book you see on Instagram, Goodreads, or other. Okay. A first book. Okay. Not quite sure what that means. I might have to go back and look. Just something I see on Instagram that's maybe a first book in a series, or maybe it's meant to be the first thing I see when I go onto Instagram. And then, okay, so the Q is Summoning Implings, a book with a magical creature. That should not be difficult. And then controlling Implings is put a few books on a poll and let others decide. Okay. I guess I'm gonna have to put them up on Instagram. So a poll on Instagram to decide. I'll probably try to make those like horror books or fantasy books to go along with the demonology theme. So that is just a quick look at how to go about uh, making a character, going through the different classes, um, figuring out what your prompts are for that month. So, a couple of other things we could do, but I mean, I've already gone half an hour on this. Um, if you look at the history document, it has a guild list at the bottom, so it lets you know what your specific guild is all about, and also gives you a unique calling, a unique gift, unique conduits, and guild specialties, so things you're really good at. So the conduits are just an extra thing you can do where you decide how you focus your energy, like what item do you focus your energy through. And then the callings are another thing you can do down here. So here's for the conduits, like what do you draw your energy through? There are some generic ones, and then based on your guild, you can get a couple of extras. And then for you can also choose a legacy. So um, the legacy for the archivist here, make a pact with one of the gods, to siphon energy and learn from ancient powers, beckon their protection. There are dozens of temples across the land. So it just gives you a list of gods that you can form a pact with. I would probably go with Velenos, which is the god of death and rebirth, amplifies necromancy abilities as well as herbology. Experienced patrons can also communicate with the dead. Temples located in underground caves covered in flowing vines. That sounds like the kind of thing that my character would be interested in. Necromancy would have been a choice, but I think they're more interested in reviving their love and finding out what the source of this magic was than they are in like raising them back as a zombie, which I feel like is what necromancy seems to be about. But of these here, I would say death and rebirth is on theme. So probably I would do Velenos Pact as my legacy. And again, that's just for extra flavor. It doesn't impact anything. Now, there are a couple of other things on here, a couple of other documents. So there is this chart here to summon an impling. And the way that it works is you have to connect all these blue dots in this pattern to finish it up. And it just adds an extra little challenge. The guy here that is like our dark arts instructor for this year, and he's a demon from the shadow realm. So again, to add a little bit of challenge, and because I think it lines up with what my character would be interested in, I'll probably be doing this as well to try to um, summon an impling and get closer to this teacher and learn more about the shadow world and the way it works. So yeah, it requires that you read a book between 400 and 450 pages. One letter appears twice in the title. A recent release, blue on the cover. You start reading at night, and you've read something from that author before, and it doesn't have to be that one book fulfills all of these things, although it could be. But each time you can connect two of the nodes, you draw a line between them, and then eventually you want to make sure that all the lines are connected. Let's say you read a book that's 415 pages and one letter appears twice. You can make that connection in the two upper level things. And then later you read another book where one letter appears twice and it was released this year. You can connect that next node. Or if one book satisfies all three of those, you can connect all three together. So just over the course of the month, I need to make sure that I'm picking books that fulfill this as well. It's just an extra little hurdle to overcome. There's also this list of supplementary qualifications and opportunities. So these are just like extra little things you can try to do. So like getting your dragon riding license is reading books with dragons and then watching a movie about dragons. Uh, Being an apothecary keeper reading books with plants on the cover, and then look at share 5 different plants online. Bog collector, read a book by the water or a book that has a body of water on the cover, and watch an animal documentary. And then a sand ship engineer, you can read a book with a desert setting and doodle a ship. So those are all very fun. I think that I'm already going to be stretching myself a little bit with these 7 prompts. So I don't think I'm going to tackle any of these. I might do the dragon one just because I'd be interested in reading some books about dragons and watching a dragon movie. But again, these are just some supplementary things you can do with the Readathon. So I hope you enjoyed going through this with me and fleshing out my character a little bit, seeing what we're going to be reading for next month. I need to go through my TBR and see what do I have that's even going to be close to filling these prompts. And if I don't have them, then I'll have to look at my want to reads on Goodreads so I can find enough books to fit these prompts. So if you would like to join the Magical Readathon, again, I will post the Aurelian 101 video in the comments. I'll also link to the autumn solstice video and the channel overview, the channel link as well. But yeah, it's just another fun way to approach reading, and I really like the D&D style element to it, and so I wanted to try to see how it would go creating a character and going through this process and to determine what books I'm going to read for next month. All right. Until next time, I hope your reading journey is going well, and I will see you guys on the next one. Comment below. Let me know, are you going to participate in the Magical Readathon? Have you heard of the Magical Readathon before? Have you participated in the past? Did I get something horribly wrong about going through this process? Because it does seem quite involved. Yeah, let me know in the comments down below, and I hope you have a wonderful day.